Hello, hello, everybody. How are we doing on participants here?
Maybe give everyone one more minute,
Yep.
Josh.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Already got a pretty good number in. Hi, everyone, again. I'm sure you're all sick of looking at my ugly mug by now.
Marcus already had a question up and down. So, fun fact about this picture right here, um, Charles Bulware, one of our other field CTOs, this is his chicken coop. He lives in South Austin, but my son actually helped make this one.
It looks way more professional than my DIY.
Yeah. All right, let's do it.
All right. You want to kick it off, Josh, or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
All right. So, morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on day 3 here at FCON. We're gonna be doing a little discussion around raising chickens. And like the pros and cons and like how to do things that are associated with whether you're in a big farm or maybe you just have a house in the city. Um let's go ahead and
Start out.
into it.
Uh, Chris, tell them how many chickens you have and how long you've
Oh.
had them. Give a little background. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yep.
So I've been keeping chickens for about a year. Um I started with keeping them in my backyard and my lanai when I lived in Florida, but this year I moved to Illinois, bought a 20-acre farm, and so I have raised my chicken counts. I'm up to 21 chickens total, and the plan is for me to add 10 more in the spring.
And I've been doing chickens for about 5 years now. We're COVID refugees and ended up getting them in the thick of COVID. And we typically run anywhere between 30 to 40 of them. We always lose some to predators or old age or something like that, but that's where we're at today. All right.
All right, so let's start with the good. Why do you want to have chickens? Uh, I'm not going to go directly in order on the screen. I'm going to talk about them in the order that I think is important to me personally. But for me, like the number one thing is uh, raising animals in general, and chickens particularly, at least to me, is an extremely grounding experience. I think most everybody who is on this call works in tech in some form or another. Tech is a extremely taxing thing on your brain, and just going out, taking care of some normal routine chores and hanging out with your chickens. My chickens are basically pets who give me delicious eggs to eat, and I spend probably about 30 to 45 minutes easily a minimum a day just watching them, like watching them hunt and stuff. It's pure zen for me. Um, and that kind of leads in also into the tiny terrors of cuteness. Chickens are awesome. They're adorable. If you get certain breeds, they are incredibly human focused, and we call some of these breeds lap chickens because the moment you sit down, they're gonna plop right up there. I mean, to be fair, first thing they're doing is jumping up in your lap looking for snacks, but then they just settle in, roost on you, and it's you just melt. Um, Obviously, we're not gonna we can't discount the fact that I mean, why most of us have chickens. Eggs are especially now are very expensive. Um, and most chickens will lay consistently over 3 seasons. If you plan your breeds together correctly, you can get winter layers, so you have eggs every single day of the year. Um, though one thing that I didn't realize before I started was uh, that I didn't realize I actually didn't know chickens laid every single day. So if you start to build a flock, just be aware you're going to learn new and exciting ways to cook with, eat, uh, work with eggs, because 3 to 4 hens, you'll average about 2 dozen eggs a week. And then the last one that here is chickens are kind of like having goats in your yard. They anytime you start having grass get a little high and it starts throwing seeds, chickens will go after it. Uh, it is one of those things you do need to make sure if you're free ranging, you give them enough space, because otherwise, I learned the hard way when I had them in my little 10-foot run originally. That 10-foot run was barren because they ate every single bit of vegetation off of that small area. Now I free range them across a pretty large backyard, and um to be really honest, I haven't really had to mow my backyard in quite a bit of time. That's not just the chickens. I have a couple other livestock, but the chickens are the primary veg eaters there, so it's nice to have an easy button for your ranging area. Oh, Josh, you want to take this one? Sorry.
Sure. Yeah. So, what are what are some stuff that's going to surprise you here? So, probably I'd go to the second one first. They poop everywhere. It's a continuous battle, especially if you let them free range like we do as well. You're gonna have poop on your porch. They will literally just poop everywhere. Um, they can be noisy. Roosters typically are the ones you think of as the noisiest. And they will wake you up in the morning depending on the breed. Certain breeds will get up earlier than others or whatever. But chickens themselves, oftentimes whenever they're establishing their pecking order and running around chasing food and stuff like that, they'll end up being a little bit noisy as well. Um, the drama queen part of this is absolutely hilarious. It is 100% true. They're miniature dinosaurs. I think Chris talks about that later on as well. But yeah, the pecking order that they go through and are constantly doing little fights and chasing each other off and everything like that, it can be entertaining as well. Um, a couple of things here that you need to know as well. Oftentimes, communities will try and have restrictions around chickens. Both Chris and I live in places where they don't have this. Technically speaking, I'm in the city, and they do. However, we've got really great neighbors, and we initially started selling our eggs whenever we had too many, and then we just started. We had so many, we just gave them away. And so all of our neighbors know to come down. They don't care. They like the chickens. Oftentimes they'll be two doors down, or something like that. We have roosters. That is technically a no-no as well in the city here. If they drive by or whatever and see one, sometimes they'll try and bust us on it, but typically you're just fine on it. I know for Houston, I believe that they're allowed, but there are restrictions on like how far away from another structure or a neighbor it has to be as well. And so oftentimes, if you end up abiding by that, you can get away with having them. My sister has them. She's in the middle of Spring Branch, and I think she typically has about 4 or 5 of them. Small little coop in the backyard, plenty of eggs for their family, and then they give them away to neighbors every once in a while as well. Go ahead,
All
Chris.
right. Um, so let's talk a little bit about kind of some things you need to consider if this is something you want to uh pursue. First thing, and I think this in most people case, it's going to be the biggest uh issue slash consideration is the amount of space you need to free range your chickens. Um, I think me and Josh both are among the same mind. There is only really one right way to keep a good flock, and that involves free ranging. So in most cases, people are going to need about 10 square feet of space to free range inside their run. Uh, this is a kind of absolute bare minimum. This that will give they will probably be able to forage and then augment that with your feed, and your birds aren't going to die of starvation. That does not mean you will have happy birds. And so I honestly recommend between 3 and 5 times that much space of ranging space for them to forage. It'll keep your grass happy, it'll keep your birds happy. And then you just you'll realize, and they'll go around. A couple other big things to think about. Definitely want to make sure that and we're going to talk in depth about coops here, but make sure you have some vertical height for them to roost in. Chickens are jungle birds. They roost in trees. That's how their natural instincts are. The height gives them a bit of safety. Um, and with that, and wrapping up on that on vertical height, also, if you have a short fence and you don't want your chickens to be ranging through your neighbors, you might want to look at like at least a 6 foot, if not an 8 foot fence. Um, but because chickens pretty much they don't like to honor like mortal concepts, things like property lines, fences, anything like that. They don't fly, but they can jump very high when they
Quick
and
wing.
yeah, they they get a nice large apex.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, and
Josh, you want to take us back to the coop?
yeah, and I do want to add on that there's some people clip wings to stop them from jumping or getting the amount of height. We our initial flock that we did, we ended up doing that on those. You have to keep up with it every once in a while and go clip one of the wings. However, we've since stopped doing that, and part of it is predators. You want them to be able to hop up and get away from predators. You want them to be able to hopscotch up to a tree or over a fence or something like that. And so we just stopped doing that altogether. I think that's an important note.
Yeah, and just to tack onto that one more little thing is so we actually on ours we have designed our coops and our roosts around the yard and inside the coop to be higher than usual with some stepping platforms. And it's for that same reason. We actually encourage our birds to be good at jumping, to be good at making quick flights up to a tree branch, things like that, because like that is their defense system, and everything thinks chickens are delicious.
Yep. All right, let's get into the architecture here. So, our story on this is we actually used a big dog pen first and put a roof on that and made some nesting boxes like you see in the picture here. You fill those full of hay, and they have a home at that point. You want to keep them out of the direct wind, have a place for shade. Obviously, you want to have water in there. And you can see over on the left-hand side, there's the roosting bars that Chris was talking about earlier. This is probably the most expensive initial part of your investment whenever you get into chickens. Over time, depending on if you free range or not, your feed can add up. Feed and hay can add up as well. But typically, you're going to spend a lot more on your structure than just about anything else. And this is something that, again, will evolve whenever you start out with 3 or 4 chickens. Then you can do something fairly small, maybe 1 to 2 nesting boxes. They'll take turns in there. And then if you grow your flock, you definitely want to have a lot more space in there. Again, the pecking order doesn't stop at any point, right? They're going to be fighting in the evenings. They'll be fighting in the mornings, whether they're in the coop or out of the coop. And you do want little retreats where they can go back and kind of hide away from the rest of them. Chris, do you want to talk about your coop a little bit here? You're on mute.
Thank you. Uh, yeah, I went down the DIY route here. Well, partially. So I have a large flock, so and needed quite a bit of space. And when I started looking into prefabs, I was looking at close to like 8 or 9 thousand for some of the prefabs for the large ones. So I went to Home Depot and bought a wooden garden shed and had them deliver it to my property. Got everything settled in for there, and then I retrofitted the inside for to have roosting poles, and installed some automatic doors on it, and then attached two runs, which a run is generally just a metal, like frame structure that's covered in chicken wire all the way around with the door. This means that I did that specifically so chickens have routines that you got to basically let them in and out every day, those type of things. So it makes it very difficult to go take a weekend and go somewhere or, not being able to be there right at dusk or dawn. So the automation of the doors and having them in the runs when I'm away was a big consideration for me. The last thing I'll talk about is my roosting bars because it's something I didn't really know at first. Um, and I live in Illinois, so we do actually have cold winters. Chickens, unlike a lot of other birds, they actually prefer to have their feet flat when they're trying to roost. It's also how they stay warm in the winter because their feet and their wattles tend to be the places you have to worry about frostbite, and they keep warm by like plopping down on top of their feet to get their feet covered in their feathers. So, um, instead of using round roosting bars, I always recommend using 2x4s with the flat end up, not the narrow end. If you and I built those basically a bunch of L's that I bracketed into the wall with a single wing nut bolt. That way I can pull them out when I need to, scrape them off to clean them. It also makes cleaning my coop a lot easier because I don't have anything touching the floor. I can just take a push broom, push everything into it onto a tarp, roll it up, take it out to my burn area.
Yep. Yeah, the other thing of note, we end up we have a fan. We have one that's solar powered, and we have one that runs. It's a much smaller fan, and that one runs all of the time. And then we have a big fan that we put in there in the middle of the summer in order to be able to cool them off as well. Because ours are in Central Texas, and yeah, we've lost some to heat in the past as well, or we presume to heat. We also have a heat lamp and that we put on ours, depending on how low the temperature is going to end up being. It'll crank on and keep them warm at night.
All right. So we'll talk a little bit about kind of your daily routine. Um, Chickens are very much creatures of habit. And once you gotta get your routine established, they will let you know if you're breaking up their routine. They don't like it very much. Um, but there are some things, it's not a ton of work, but the big consideration is you can't skip days on this. You really need to be around. So either, well, like if you like to travel and things like that, you'll have to take these into considerations. You can't, it's not quite as easy as taking a dog to a boarding area. Um, my neighbor has chickens as well, and we bonded kind of over talking about our birds, and so now we kind of act as each other's um, support when we need to be away from home. But the big things you kind of want to know, it's not a ton of work, but you need to get up in the morning, get out there, make sure that they can get out into to start their free range. Um, I find if I free range most of the day, my feed costs go down by like five
Big
or
time.
six,
Yep.
yeah, times. Chickens eat a lot. They eat a whole lot. And they do that because they eat all pretty much all day they're foraging. So get out, let them get out and start ranging. I am a morning egg collector, so I collect my eggs from the day before when I go out to get them, and then I just check on their food and water when I let them out. I do their outside waterers and their outside feeder when I do the morning routine, and then I check the coop feeder and waterer in the evening when I lock them up. the last thing to kind of talk about, like, well, also before I move on to that, so out doing nothing but just taking care of my daily chores, for them, it, it, I spend about 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes a day just doing that stuff. Um, Now, with that being said, I also spend another like 45 minutes to an hour trying to just be out there bonding with my birds. I take snacks. Definitely something incredibly both satisfying and horrifying about seeing you opening the back door, walking out, and seeing 30 birds come charging out of the woods, running over to you. It's absolutely hilarious. I have kind of squat breeds too, so when they charge, they basically power waddle across the yard. It's awesome. The last chore I really want to mention is, and this is more of a weekly thing. You need to clean your coop regularly. I find that if I do it weekly, and just keep up with it, it takes me probably an hour every Saturday is when I go out and do it. And that's just changing your litter in the coop, making sure to clean the bird poop off of it if it gets on your roosting bars, which is super important because they roost there, they come in direct contact with that, and if there's poop there, your birds will get themselves sick. Um, I also talked about feed. When I free range, I go through probably with my 30 birds, 150-pound bag every week and a half. If I leave them in the runs, I will go through 350-pound bags in a week. Just to kind of give you an idea. Also, one thing you'll learn real quickly if you're especially if you're like spending time with your chickens adore mealworms. If you like when you go to your feed store, if you pick up a bag of freeze-dried mealworms, um, I mean, they'll cut you for them. I kid, but they absolutely adore it. My chickens, like, they can hear me open a bag of mealworms from like the back 17 acres of my pasture. So yeah, so I like to use that. I try to supplement their diet about 10% from the crumble with mealworms. It's basically pure protein for them, and this will help offset if they don't get as much forage time.
Yeah, absolutely. We use, well, first of all, chickens are omnivores. They oftentimes will go after protein first. So they'll go after a bug or a lizard or something like that. Mealworms, like I said, are a delicacy for them. But secondly, we also utilize them in our garden to help turn that over, right? At the end of the season, they're great to go in there and pick through everything and kind of clean it up, which has been nice. We also feed ours scraps from the kitchen. So anytime that we have waste or leftover food or something like that, we'll typically go and feed them that. They'll eat just about anything. We don't like to feed them chickens, obviously, but you can actually crush up the eggshells, and that's good for them to go get minerals and stuff like that from as well. All right, so healthcare. So I think this is one of the questions we have on our Q&A section here. First piece of advice, if you're going to or go down the road of chickens, find a vet, right? Even if you're in the city, oftentimes you can take them to a local vet, but find out if they support chickens, if that's something that they look at as well, or if they're just, typical dogs and cats. Me and Chris being remote, it's a lot easier to find a country vet, and they always we'll look at chickens and stuff. Um, there's two primary things, maybe three, that you want to watch out for. One, we just call it poopy butt. I'm sure that there's a more technical name for it or whatever like that, but um, they won't be able to poop as much and it'll stick to their butt. It's dirty. It'll get infected. You don't want that to happen. You need to clean them off or take them to a vet if that doesn't work on it. The next one I'm gonna have Chris talk about, Bumblefoot.
Okay.
Yeah, he looks for that on the regular
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So Bumblefoot, particularly with me being a little in the north, one of the side effects of the cold, is the skin gets a little drier because it's being tucked under in their feathers quite a bit. So what bumblefoot is, and that is the actual term that almost any rancher will tell you it's called. It's basically they get a staph infection on their feet. And what the big reasons for this is, one of the primary reasons is when they're jumping up and down, if they have a hard landing, and their feet are dry, it'll crack, and then that'll get infected. Um, this will kill your birds, if not treated. And so the way you treat for it, you don't even really need a vet. I mean, if it gets bad, call your vet. But um, you can literally go to your local feed store and ask them for chicken antibiotics. You do a run of it in the entire chicken's water supply. Um, it's the staff can spread. It's not common, but it doesn't hurt the chickens to have a run of antibiotics every now and again anyway. So you know that you put in their water supply and just keep an eye on that bird. Make sure you're cleaning the feet that you on the one. The big symptoms to watch for, your chickens will be limping. They'll favor one foot. You'll also see, and this is more of a general bird behavior when they're not feeling well, chickens tend to droop their wings if they're not feeling well and they look lethargic. Do you see some of those like just kind of like if you're caring for your chickens and spending time watching them, it's really obvious when something's wrong. Their behavior changes radically. So if you just kind of observe what's normal, and then when you see something out of place, then start doing, you can either call your vet immediately or, um, honestly, like especially in my first year, a lot of times it was me jumping into chat GPT and just going, hey, I'm seeing this behavior. um this is not normal for my chickens. What things should I be looking for? Do I need to call a vet now, or is there something I should do first? There's tons of great content out there through YouTube and just online content. Between that and ChatGPT, it's made my life a lot easier for that. So just want to make sure you're talking about it, make sure you understand and watch for them. I also, as a side effect, like part of my training thing is I pick up every chicken every day. I want the chickens to be used to me handling them, in case something happens. If I have to break up a squabble that's getting out of hand, I don't want them to attack me when I pick them up. I also just use this as a great chance. I put my hands on their feet. If their feet feel swollen, there's a problem.
I'm gonna
Uh,
charge ahead, Chris, because
yep. Yeah, we're time.
we're running a little bit low on time here. You want to talk about a couple of your favorite breeds here?
Yeah. So we wanted to put this together. So I own three of the breeds on this. Well, I own two of the breeds, and I'm about to add the third. I wanted to showcase some various breeds that I think are fairly beginner friendly. Faverolles, Buff Orpingtons are probably, well, and even Rhode Island Reds are some of the most docile chickens that breeds out there. Also, Rockfords are a great one. I didn't put that on here. They're another very docile, beginner friendly.
And
Um,
barred hens, Barred. That's
yep,
another one. We've given away several of those to people who are starting flocks because they're so friendly.
yeah. I think it's good to start with something like these. They as kind of the core of your flock. Um, they part of what their docility also they tend to be very much like peacekeepers. These are also all very big chickens. So if you add others that might have a little more, we'll call it sass, they will go break up fights by like plopping themselves in the middle of the fight, and just kind of staring disapprovingly at the other chickens. And they're so much bigger that the other chickens tend to back down. Um, Americanas, this is actually my personal favorite breed of chicken. These guys are super cuddly. They love to jump up in your arms. They want to be held. They want to be handled, um, on their terms. They do get a they are they might I would say they are a might bit they're a little bit less beginner friendly than the other breeds here, because they are an independent breed. They love to come up and do this, but if you try to come up and interact with them, they're not feeling it. They might give you a little like warning peck, or just flip their tail at you and bolt, and you're just like, okay, fine, I guess I'm not dealing with you right now.
So
Um
as well, the of note. are they produce colored eggs for you. So
Yes.
typically like a blue or green. So if you're into the Easter egger things, you're going to end up with some sort of Americana typically to
Yeah.
kind of round out your color spectrum on there.
All right, let's go ahead and just keep going,
Yep.
trucking on here. All right, so a couple of just like unexpected life lessons I learned as I was getting started here. We've talked about the pecking order a few times. It is, I jokingly say it's my own private Game of Thrones in my backyard. Chickens constantly are testing the hierarchy. They're trying to get through it, and it's kind of it actually does end up being really interesting. It's like, okay, so who is the top hen this week? Um, the morning routines. I've learned very much that if I oversleep and I come out, my roosters are crowing nonstop inside the coop. My hens are making very angry clucks. Just once you kind of get them into that routine, and they do train into a routine. Um, there was a question earlier. I'll go ahead and address it here. They asked about how to protect your chickens from predators such as raccoons or foxes at night. Um, so the biggest protection routine you can have for your chickens, particularly mo most of the big predator types tend to be nocturnal. So making sure your chickens are locked up and secured before dusk. Um, I actually have my chickens trained now. That chickens will instinctively go to their safe space when it starts getting dark. But I actually started calling the chickens to the coop using treat training, and I bring them in about a half an hour or so before dusk. And this is because I live in Illinois, which means I have great horned owls. So I just wanted to make sure that they get in before those owls start hunting. And the last thing, since most people like are probably getting started with this because they want eggs, something to be aware of. Chickens take between 9 to 12 months to hit sexual maturity. So there is a bit of a time delay from hatching to when you actually start getting eggs. I think most of the breeds I listed before, most of mine usually start laying at about 7 to 8 months. Uh, but uh, but your mileage may vary. I mean, just like any living thing, they mature slightly differently, but it's pretty consistent there. But you're gonna have to put in a little work time to care for them before you start getting eggs. And then as soon as all your chickens start laying, then you'll have way too many eggs. So
That is exactly it.
talk quickly talk to the red flags.
Yeah. So the big one on this, if you do not like chicken poop, do not do chickens. They will poop everywhere, especially if you let them free range. I like they'll be on your back porch. It'll literally be everywhere. You're gonna have to clean it out from the coop, the whole 9 yards on that. A couple other things. I am a big proponent of getting some sort of neighbor buy-in if you can. Share the eggs with them, right? If they're going to be noisy, if they're going to accidentally get out, whatever the case may be on that. If you've got neighbors who are really high strung, then it's probably not a great idea to do that there. Um, and then it's just like any other animal. I mean, if it's going to take some time to take care of them, right? And you want your routines down. If you're someone who travels a bunch or hold on, let me kill that. If you're somebody who travels a bunch or whatever for a long period of time, very forgetful, then chickens are probably not going to be for you. If you're gone for a weekend or something like that, you leave enough food and water. You can typically keep them in the coop. We don't recommend going more than a couple days on it. We'll typically have a neighbor or somebody come over and let them out and let them back in the evenings. All right, Chris.
Yep. So couple of like just kind of I wanted to like close out on this on some tips and around what do's and don'ts. So big piece of advice: start small. 3 or 4 hens. I promise you, you will. You're. I've never seen anybody react except one of two ways. They either go, they get them, they fall in love, and next thing you know, they're the guy who has, 20 chickens and adding 10 more. I promise I can stop anytime. It's not a problem. Um, or they realize quickly that like either the noise or the cleanup is just more than they're willing to deal with. It's just rehoming three or four chickens is a lot easier than rehoming a flock. So start small, let them try to give them some time, see what how you feel about it. The other one is to be aware of is everything you are going to do with when it comes to chicken stuff, like buying infrastructure, things like that. Everything's going to cost about twice what you think it should. Um, and it's a bunch of little things. It's nothing super expensive once you get your structure, but things like waterers, automatic feeders, all these different things, they are not super expensive, but they wear out quickly. So chickens are very hard on their feeders and waterers. So just be prepared that there is going to be some costs. When you start trying to, if you start trying to do automation, chicken automation is very expensive. um, I like to put just to kind of give an example, like I cheaped out originally and then realized how wrong I was to do so. So when I went and bought proper, like good, well-respected automatic chicken doors, those things ran me about $200 a door. So like automation stuff particularly is very expensive, and it's just because it's such a niche hobby. Like the automation stuff is generally not used in large scale like ranching operations. So this is more of a convenience factor for small people. Um, Join Facebook groups, check Reddit. I talked about ChatGPT, using that as a bouncing off point. Like getting involved with other people that are keeping chickens makes your life a lot easier. Um, and then yeah, I already alluded this. You start with three, and the next thing you know, your wife's going, "Why do you have 20 eggs in the incubator?" Um, And actually, that's one last point. I didn't actually have this in my notes, but I do think it's good to point out. You have two ways of getting chickens. Well, three. You can get a full-grown chicken from a friend or things like that. But as far as raising your own, you primarily either will hatch eggs. You can order hatching eggs and get them shipped straight to you. It's we've done actually all of ours were that way. Sorry, did you were you trying to chime in, Josh?
Nope. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. And then the other thing is you can buy them from you can buy them from your local feed store or order them. This is a really good way to do it because you have an option to get what we call pullets, which are basically guaranteed hens. So yeah, and then be ready to embrace the chaos. Want
Yeah.
to take us home on the roosters?
Yeah, I was going to add one thing there.
Okay.
Fun fact that a friend of mine told me about Tractor Supply. Tractor Supply will often have baby chicks on sale for like $1 each. The reason that they do that is they found for every dollar that someone spends on a chicken, they'll spend $75 doing other stuff around the chicken in their store. So. All right. Roosters. So this is a picture of one of our roosters that we had that actually got killed whenever it was fighting off a coyote from the rest of them. So the number one reason we feel to have roosters is basically protection. If you're going to free range, it's typically a pretty good idea to have them. And we actually have, I think we have four right now. They'll occasionally get in little squabbles here and there, but typically they've got a whole set of hens that'll follow them around and such. But yeah, they'll fight anything. If you want some somewhat entertaining videos, if you look,
Hey, Jace, are you here?
hey Chris, you want to
Oh,
mute?
I'll be. Oh,
Um, If you want some entertainment, go look at my some of my old Instagram posts. I've got everything that wants to eat a chicken on video there at some point or another. Raccoons are, at least here, are probably our number one predator that we have, although we've had to deal with all sorts of them, everything from bobcats. Possums will come in and eat eggs. Snakes will eat eggs. They typically don't go after the chickens themselves, but everything else wants to eat a delicious, football-sized uh, big ball of meat. So, fertilized eggs, that's another consideration with roosters. I like Chris said, incubating. I think that's a good idea overall, but you will need some genetic diversity in there typically, and so we'll trade eggs oftentimes with others and then go and incubate those. My best success rate so far has been about 60%. You put in 30. I think I got 18 out of one batch, and my lowest is like 6. And if you can let the hens go broody and basically sit on a nest, it takes 21 days typically for them to hatch. They'll be broody for a little bit longer than that because not all eggs are going to show up on the same day, and they'll try and get as many as possible. Our success rate, at least here, has been a little bit less. It's on the lower end of that, right around 6 babies that they'll end up having there. As far as ratios, we like, one rooster for every 10 to 12 hens. That seems to be the right balance for us. We've had less sometimes. We've had more, a couple more sometimes. Roosters can be jerks, so you do want to be careful with that. But typically, like Chris said, we'll handle all of ours, whether it's a hen or a rooster, from an early age, in order to be able to try and make them a little bit more friendly. And then the last thing of note, I've had ones that literally will start crowing at 4 in the morning, and then I've got others that are just when the sun comes up. So they can be a little bit more noisy. If you're in the city, you typically are going to have restrictions around roosters. But if you're out in the country and or in an area where they allow it and you can get far enough away from your neighbors, then I typically think that it's a good idea to go ahead and have the roosters. All right. Picture of Chris's flock that he's got here. Let's see, is there any questions that we did not answer? How much time do you spend caring for chickens daily, weekly? I think you hit on that one, John. But yeah, it's typically about 5, 10 minutes in the morning, depending, getting eggs, opening it up, make sure they got feed and water inside the coop, and then closing them up at night. We literally walk over there, make sure they're all in there. Sometimes we'll have some roost in trees. We'll need to pull those down and go stick them in the coop itself, but typically it's pretty quick. Weekly, it's primarily cleanup, cleaning out the water bowls and such, and then the in the roost itself, there can be a lot of poop in there. There's a couple different strategies you can have with that to make it a little bit quicker, doing tarps or something, or a mechanism in order to be able to sweep it out nice and easy. I think we addressed the one on chicken's health. Yeah, predators, you want to be looking at either having a rooster, and the other aspect of that is definitely you're going to have to beef up whatever structure you've got. There'll be something that figures out a way in there. So snakes have been the one that have gotten in there and they'll eat 3 or 4 eggs. Sometimes people put golf balls in there so they eat that and then they'll stop eating the eggs. But um, how much?
One point I did want to bring up from predator perspective, and this is a piece of advice. If you have small ground predators, foxes, weasels, raccoons, and you are venting your chicken coop to allow air circulation, which you should be doing. You cover. I staple up hardware cloth uh, on the and then cut a couple slits in it on the outside of my vents just to because raccoons particularly will grab on to like chicken wire and they will rip that thing straight out. So either really heavy duty screen like mesh screen or using hardware cloth as a to make sure you keep those ground predators out of your coop.
Yep.
Always also check your coop doors, make sure they get closed properly. There are chicken coop doors and there are human coop doors. The human coop doors, because they're large for us to walk into the coops, they can get out of frame with wear and tear on the hinges. when that happens, what you'll end up is when you're trying to latch everything up, you'll end up with like a 2 inch space. If it's 2 inches, you will get snakes.
Yeah.
If it's 3 inches, you will start getting rats, and rats will kill getting into the chickens are very docile when they sleep. They're they're very unaware, so that's rats can be an issue as well.
A 3 inch gap, a baby raccoon will get in there and eat a chicken in
Yeah.
front of all of its sisters. We've got that on video. It's pretty horrific.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
let's see. How much activities would you need to schedule to commit with raising chickens? Is that how much time would you need to commit?
Yeah. So there's two kind of schools of thought. There's more to the traditional ranching idea, which really, other than doing your chores and making sure they get out to free range, that's all that's really required. Um, like I said before, my chickens are like pets that happen to give me eggs. So I do like to do a lot, provide enrichment. I go out, hang out with them. I have like some various roosting structures throughout the yards, and I'll put treats in the hard to get spots to get to keep them, give them something to do. But chickens' main daytime routine revolves around foraging. So tossing a big pile of leaves up and putting treats in it, let them like spread them back out, that kind of stuff. Like they love that, and it's really not a huge commitment.
There's a
Some days I
cute
don't
way
have
to
the
run errands.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't have time to spend an extra hour out there with them, and they don't really seem to mind.
Yeah. When it comes to change of seasons, would chickens easily adapt to weather changes? For the most part, yes. We've had some really big ones die on us in the past from heat. So that's why we ended up putting a fan just for basic ventilation, and then, like I said, whenever it gets hot, we'll put a bigger fan on them. But we're in Central Texas, so I don't get the cold. I know that when we had Snowmageddon a couple years ago, we really didn't have any issues with it at all. They've got a lot of feathers on them and like to bundle up whenever it gets really cold. So I think that's okay.
All right. I think we're getting the crook.
Yep.
We are right up against our next session, but I
Okay.
love all of the questions. I think this has been one of the most popular sessions so far with questions and feedback. So really appreciate all of your excellent advice, Josh and Chris. Great session. And as with all of them, these are being recorded, and feel free to reach out to Josh and Chris if you have any other additional questions or want to follow up with conversations. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.